Hey, Hookster, Hookster, come on, wakey, wakey, Hookster, Hookster, come on, wake up, you senile old bastard. The Grand Prix on, it's really exciting, there's safety cars and everything.
What's going on? A race, you say? An exciting race? Oh my goodness, Well, I'd better at least have half a shave before I watch this race. So yeah, this is the news that we had... What? What's the matter? What? Oh God, you kids, honestly, you kids. Ma'am, that scary guy on YouTube's only shaved half his face off. Ma'am, he's scaring me. Hit the report button. Oh, for God's sake. Okay, hang on a minute. Let's try this. There, is that better? Bloody kids. Hello everyone and welcome back to another Hookster Talks. And yes, we had an exciting Canadian Grand Prix. I could not believe it. I was fully awake for the whole of the Grand Prix, even though I only get the highlights. I was fully awake, did not fall asleep for 1 second. It was a Bobby Dazzler, absolute Bobby Dazzler. Okay, I've got some awards to go out for Plums of the Week, and I've got 2 awards for Plums of the Week, and the first one has to go to Logans Private. Yes, he was busted down from Sergeant months and months ago. If he keeps this up, he's going to be demoted to Seaman Staines. Yes, Petty Officer Seaman Staines, because oh my God, what is up with Logan Sargent? I mean, he's just Ricardo Rosset now, isn't he? I know he's a nice kid. Everyone says he's so nice and he gets so upset when he doesn't do well. I understand that completely. But there's no place in Formula One, I'm sorry to say, for nice guys. And Logan Private has to go. He has to go because he's just all over the place. He really is just all over the place. That reminded me of Monaco 1998 for Ricardo Rosset, seeing him, spin out. My head was in my hands. I was like, oh my God, no, please, no. Logan's Private has to go. I'm sorry, he's not good enough to be in Formula One. Maybe in a few years' time he may be able to come back, when he's got more experience and come back into Formula. I don't know. The trouble is, once you leave, it's especially someone like Logan Sargent, who's really not a very well-known name. It's been very difficult for him to actually return to the sport. So I think that's basically why he's clinging on by his teeth. Or is it because his dad's the fourth richest person in America? I'm not quite sure which one it is. I'm just trying to weigh up. Anyway, my second plum of the week has to go to George of the Russell. Yes, George of the Russell, the biggest bottle job on the planet. I mean, Jesus. You know what the trouble with George is? The trouble with George is once he gets in a car and it's doing well and it's quite competitive, it's doing well, he just tries too bloody hard. He just tries too hard, makes too many mistakes and completely cocks it up. And I mean, when Lando passed him, he absolutely shat himself. He couldn't even make the next turn because he was like, oh my God. That's what it was like. It was just unbelievable. I was like, come on. And even Toto Wolff over the intercom said, focus, George, focus, because that seemed to be a problem. He doesn't seem to focus when he's, in a good car. He just seems to lose his head. We've seen it before, and unfortunately we saw it again. I mean, he did well in the end, and he did pass Lewis Hamilton towards the end of the race, which was good, but it was really a DRS overtake, really. Lulu would have had it, and of course Lulu did pass him earlier, which I found incredibly fantastic to watch. Yes, I was going, come on Lulu, come on. As everyone knows, I love Lulu to death. Yes, I hope Lulu stays in Formula One for the next 10 years. When he turns up to every race with that T-Cozy hat on, it's just comedy gold, and I just... Please, Lulu, please. I don't care what you do. If you have to retire, just please be in Formula One in some capacity. Yeah, you could be the T-Boy or something. I don't know. But please don't ever leave Formula One because all the characters have now left. They've all left. It's only you left. You need to uphold the characterless Formula One for all of us. Yeah, so please stay in Formula One, Lulu. Love it. Anyway, the only problem with the race, unfortunately, was the fact that Max Verstappen won it. That was the only unfortunate thing, but he didn't win it, without a fight. There was definitely a fight there, and I have to say it does look like the other teams, especially the McLarens and now the Mercedes, are actually starting to catch up. So I'm not going to say it yet, but we could be in for a exciting second half of the 2024 season. I think they just need a few more races, and then they may be challenging Max. I'm not quite sure whether they will or not, but they may be challenging Max for wins. Yes, especially Lando and the Mercedes. What on earth has happened to them? They've been languishing in about 8th, 9th, 10th position for quite a few races now, haven't they? And suddenly they are up there. They are up there improving it. And of course, George Russell in the lead of the race, a little bit because of the weather and because, there was no DRS, so Verstappen really couldn't pass him. But all credit to him. He was doing very, very well for that 20 odd minutes that he was in the lead of the race until he completely bottled it. Yes. And that was it. And he just spent the rest of the time just really seeming unfocused, as Toto said, really seemed unfocused and was just over driving the car and just in a desperate attempt to get back where he was. It's just, I don't know. He just seems to be a little bit too much of a showman for my liking. A little bit too much. He seemed to be desperate for that, that opportunity to be up there at the front and the adoration and everything. It'll come on its own, George, if you're good enough. It really will come on its own. You really shouldn't be fighting for it the way you do in some of these races when you are competitive. I mean, we saw that in his first race when he was in the Mercedes when Lewis Hamilton, I think, got COVID, didn't it? We saw that. I mean, there was a lot of things happening during that race, but still there was little errors and mistakes creeping in for George as well. So, yeah, not too good. But anyway, so Maxi Boy won the race. We had a few other incidents, including we had the safety car, yes, but of course we had the best thing of all, which was the rain. If ever you want to improve a Formula 1 race, just let the rain come down and then let it dry up again and then let it rain a little bit more again. Oh, that's the best thing about any Formula 1 race is intermediate conditions, yes. Now, hats off, I have to say, to Haas, who had a brilliant but stupid strategy. Yes, it was brilliant in the first few laps and it worked. It was stupid in the fact that it was never going to stay like that because they were always going to have to go onto intermediate tyres, weren't they? Always going to have to go onto intermediate tyres. So for me, it seemed very strange that they would start on the wets. To be honest, I think there may have been a little bit of showboating going on, a little bit of, for the fans. Get a little, because Huss really hasn't been mentioned a lot lately, has it? And of course, with Gunter Steiner not in it anymore, Huss's sort of recognition and brand and everything else has been dipping a little bit. So I'm just a little bit suspicious that they may have tried to spice themselves up a little bit. But as I say, it was brilliant, but also incredibly stupid as well, because as I say, they were always going to have to go on to intermediates. You don't go from full wet tyres to dries, do you? So there was no advantage for them to go on to the wets. If it had started absolutely chucking down, yes, it would have done. But, they know what the weather's like, and they knew, all the other teams knew that it wasn't going to be like that. So that's why they went out on intermediate. So, yeah, brilliant but stupid strategy from Haas, I have to say. But apart from that, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Old K-Mag was really gunning it through there, overtaking McLarens. When did we ever hear that in the last few years with a Haas car? It's been a while. I mean, they did well in, 2016 for a little while, didn't they? But since then, they really haven't been up there. But yes, overtaking a McLaren. Let's put that into the history books from a Haas car. Superb. But anyway, after we had the safety car, and of course we had an incident with Sergio Perez. He smacked into the wall and completely ripped off his rear wing. Well, it was still there, but it was sort of hanging in the breeze. So Sergio having a very poor weekend, it has to be said. And of course, he's just been signed for another 2 years, and of course now all the venom from everyone is coming out and say, well, look at this, he's just been signed and now he doesn't give a crap. Now, as we know, contracts are not rock solid, never are. So there's always a possibility within that 2-year period, if he doesn't perform, that he could be let go. And don't forget, of course, this is Red Bull, and they're notorious for things like that. So even though that contract is signed, that is not a definite that he's going to be there for the next 2 years unless his form improves. I think it's just a dip from Sergio Perez, to be honest. I don't think it's anything, tragic or that he's going to have to be like a Daniel Kvyat and get rid of. I don't think that's the case. I think he's just having a dip. As Helmut Marko said, it was some kind of mental, he's not mentally there at the moment. I find that a little bit strange from someone who's a complete pillock myself, but each to their own. But that's probably what's up with Sergeant. I'm sure he will come back and he'll be up there being a good number 2 again for Max Verstappen in the future anyway. But we will see what happens with that. But yes, so I was very, very happy to see a decent race for a change, one that I didn't fall asleep through, which I have to say makes a bloody change these days, especially after the last 2 bore fest that we had. Monaco was, oh my God, it was. I feel sorry for you people who have got Sky and you have to watch the whole of the race, because even on the highlights, it was still 44 minutes of torture. It was 44 minutes of torture. That's the first race in a long time where I've said, thank God that was over. And as a die-hard Formula 1 fan, that's not the kind of thing you want anyone to hear. No, thank God that's over. But it was, and God, it was boring. And so was the race before that, to be honest. So we've had 2 bad ones. But finally, yes, Canada produces. Canada's always, we get some bad ones, but most of the time they always produce an exciting race. And of course, with the intermediate conditions as well, that always throws a huge spanner into the work, something that I really, really like. And so it was just a great race, and sort of reminded me why I like Formula 1 again. So, I'm going to have a little bit of a hype train for me for the next couple of weeks until the next Grand Prix. And then, of course, it'll be Spain, I think, isn't it? And then it'll be boring again and we'll all forget about it. But for the moment, yeah, I'm pretty hyped for F1 at the moment, I have to say. Pretty hyped indeed. Anyway, congratulations to Maxi Boy Verstappen for winning the race. And as I say, he didn't have it easy. He had some problems with George Russell. George was doing very well in the initial stages of the Grand Prix, but I'll say towards the end he was just losing his head. And I have to say congratulations to Lewis Hamilton, who was up there. He was up there. A lot of people have said Lewis is done for. He's finished. He's no good. Me, one of them. Yes, me, one of them. I'm one of the ones that has said that when he goes to Ferrari next year, he's not going to make any difference to Ferrari. He's going to be finishing in 7th and 8th position, pretty much where he's been finishing at Mercedes. I think that's what's going to happen. But I have to say, well done to Lulu. He looked a little bit like the Lulu of old. Not quite there, but very much better than he has been in the past few races. Now, fortunately, it was a double DNF for Ferrari. Absolute disaster of a race. I mean, they started right back anyway, to be honest. They sort of tried a strategy of putting one of them on the hard tyres, still in wet conditions. That was never going to work. Charles Leclerc, of course, had an engine failure with his car, or there was something wrong with the car anyway in response to the engine. And so, it was always going to be not on. And so they just parked them both up in the end. Carlos Sainz as well. Carlos Sainz, of course, had damage to the front of his car. You can see his end fence of his wing was missing. So I don't know whether that had any bearing on whether he retired or not. Just, too much. But yes, both the Ferraris. What an absolutely dismal weekend at Canada for the Ferraris. And hopefully they'll bounce back again for Spain. But of course, when something like that happens to a top team, which Ferrari are now, they're up there, it always gives the teams behind more to push to the front. And of course we had that this time with McLaren, Lando Norris, very good race for Lando, and of course Piastri as well, very good indeed, and of course the 2 Mercedes guys. And it was just absolutely great, apart from Logan Sargent, of course, which there's not a lot else you can say. What a plum, what an absolute plum. But yes, I thoroughly enjoyed the Canadian Grand Prix, and I'll give it a rating actually of 7.9 out of 10. 7.9. I'm not going to give it an 8 because I've seen better races which deserve an 8, especially the way things are going in the season. But I'll give it a 7.9. It was a very solid race. I enjoyed it. I liked the rain. I liked the safety cars and everything else about it. It was a proper F1 race like we used to get back in the old days before Liberty Media came in and ruined the bloody show. Yes, ruined the bloody Liberty Media. Come back, Bernie. Please come back. All is forgiven. Please come back. Sort it out, Bernie. He won't, because he's gone now. But anyway, that's my little tiny mini review of the Canadian Grand Prix. It was fantastic. Let me know what you thought in the comments and what you thought of Logan's privates. Do you think now he should be expunged from Formula One? Should he be out the door and get someone else in? Or do you think he's being treated unfairly, and do you think he should just carry on, with the rest of the season? It's going to be, I think it's going to be doubtful he's still going to be around after the summer break, to be honest. I think that's going to be a bit of an ask for Logans Privates to still be around after the summer break. I'm sure they get someone else in there. Now, of course, Daniel Ricciardo, of course, was in the race at Canada, and I've been very critical of Daniel Ricciardo, and I have to say he had a good position, but he did start to drop down pretty rapidly during the race, and I can't remember where he ended up, but he wasn't very high up there, was he? So yeah, for Daniel Ricciardo, I'm still not giving him the benefit of the doubt, because yes, he qualified well, but some drivers did used to qualify well. Jarno Trulli, yes, but during the race they were always shit. Jarno Trulli, and so I'm not going to reserve judgment on Daniel Ricciardo and start saying, oh yes, it's a resurgence and he's back. I don't think he's back at all, to be honest. I think he's still the same as what he always was, a completely overrated driver. Completely overrated. Anyway, talking about that, I'd just like to say a congratulatory award to Jack Villeneuve for all his comments he's made of all the drivers over the weekend. I'd just like to say, Jack, if you're watching, I'm sure you are, you're an absolute plum. I don't mind people bashing other drivers. It's absolutely fine. I haven't got a problem with that, as long as they're prepared to sort of look back at themselves and wonder whether some of the choices they made were probably the best ones. Now let's go back to 1999, when his best friend Craig Pillock, as I'm going to call him, that's not his real name, it was Craig Pollock, but I'm going to call him Craig Pillock, said to Villeneuve, hey, I'm making a team. We're going to enter Formula One. Come drive for me, and we're going to win our first race in 1999. And Jack Villeneuve said, I'm in, Craig. I'm in. Sign on the dotted. There it was. What happened? BAR entered in 1999, and they did absolute shit. Yes, absolute shit. So, Jack, you have to ask yourself the question, when you're, throwing lots of shades and bulbs and whatever you want to throw at these other drivers, did you really make the best decisions in your own career? Did you really? I don't think you did, really, did you? And, of course, to the end of his career, he ended up like the usual typical loser driver route and ended up at Sauber. Yes, that's where they put all the losers who are on their way out. That back in the day, anyway. Yes, they put them all in Saubers, and that's where Jack Villeneuve ended up. Yes. So to Jack, if you're watching, just shut the fuck up, because you've made some horrible choices in your driving career, and you've got really nothing to crow about. So having a go and throw in lots of shade at other drivers, just be prepared to look at yourself first before you judge others. That's all I can say. Anyway, that's all for me. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. You have been awesome as always, and let me know in the comments what you thought of the Canadian Grand Prix. Okay, I'm off now to shave the rest of me bloody head, you bastards.